All right, well, why don't we get started? I am Arnfinn Alstefjord. I'm the global head of the KCS Academy, and welcome to our KCS Aligned and Verified Vendor Series. And in this series, you get to hear KCS best practices from experts from both our aligned and verified vendors and their customers as appropriate. And for those not familiar with our KCS Aligned and Verified program, it's an elite group of tools that support the KCS practices. And in the case of our verified vendors, they've demonstrated that they support all 8 KCS practices. Our aligned vendors are more specialized and proven that they support elements of the KCS methodology. And this webinar is sponsored by SearchUnify, and they are one of our KCS V6 aligned vendors. And I'm pleased to introduce Brian Corcoran. Brian is the regional sales manager at SearchUnify. Brian is KCS Practices certified. He is the resident KCS evangelist at SearchUnify with over 10 years of experience in helping support and service teams maximize customer value. And Brian's going to present how SearchUnify can reduce your customer's time to value through both the KCS Solve and Evolve loops. So a lot of nice best practices that he's going to be sharing, and you'll get insight into the SearchUnify functionality. And some housekeeping before we begin. This session is being recorded and will be posted at the KCS Academy site, as well as sent out to all who have registered. And please post your questions in chat. We're going to be monitoring chat. Brian has several of his peers on who are going to be monitoring chat. They will answer them, bring them up to Brian as appropriate in the flow, or save them for the Q&A session at the end. And while you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute. And we also want to make sure you're aware of upcoming KCS Academy events. On Wednesday, February 17th, we'll have a KCS in Action webinar featuring Ryan Matthews from NetApp. And you'll hear how NetApp support team rebooted their KCS program by lowering effort, nudging for change, and building momentum. And for those who don't know Ryan, he has a tremendous, he's had tremendous success with KCS. So you'll want to register to hear best practices he has learned and adopted. And we'll also be having a KCS Academy Roundtable in March. These have been very popular, and we're finalizing the details of that, and we'll be posting that soon. And you can register for these events at the KCS Academy site. Jennifer is going to be posting the link in the chat to the NetApp KCS in Action. And so feel free to register for that right away. We're already getting a good number of people registered for that. But now I'm very excited about today's event and pleased to pass it over to Brian.
All right, thank you so much, Arnfinn. It's a pleasure to be joining everybody today on this webinar. Just a little bit about me before we begin. I've actually spent the last 10 or so years, as Arnfinn had said, working with support organizations and really helping doing a better job of connecting their customers with content to solve those end issues and really create those fast lanes for customers to engage with conversations for those unknown issues. So certainly some deliverables that are all close to our hearts. And today we're going to walk you through some of the practical applications of SearchUnify within the KCS workflows. Any questions that come in, as Arnfinn was saying, we'll be glad to address those one by one. So we'll be very active in the chat, but any questions that come in as well, we can make sure that those are addressed in real time. So we'll do our best there. We're also going to have a Q&A at the end. So please have those questions come and we'll make sure that we address those in lockstep. So before we begin, going to these KCS events over the years, there's a quote that always stands out to me, and I really want to make sure that with these KCS aligned webinars that it's about an exchange of ideas. And going back to George Bernard Shaw, so if you have an apple and I have an apple and we exchange apples, then you and I will still each have one apple. But if you have an idea and I have an idea and we exchange these ideas, then each of us will have 2 ideas. And that's really the takeaway that we're looking for today is just sharing a different perspective in terms of how fellow practitioners are trying to reduce that customer time to value, leveraging KCS and cognitive search. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so just about SearchUnify. This is really, one of the first times that many of you are hearing about SearchUnify. So just to walk through, SearchUnify is a cognitive search platform. So we're built on a foundation of AI and machine learning, cognitive insights engine. So we do power intelligent search insights, but really it's about connecting the enterprise and your customers with the most relevant content that's going to enable them to get their jobs to be done quicker. And so the primary use cases that we're supporting now are around support use cases and also working with other practitioners who are building KCS out into other departments such as legal and HR. But we're finding, the key areas where we're focusing are around support agents, community managers, customer success, content writers, knowledge managers, and most importantly, customers. So in terms of the use cases, filling those content gaps to boost self-service and case resolution, improve that CSAT, reduce the support costs, and really ensure that we're making knowledge that great enabler as a byproduct of every single interaction that we have. So moving forward into our background and how we've put everything together, SearchUnify, the approach that we've taken is really aligning to a key mantra, which is be where your customers are, but with the knowledge to help them succeed. And if you think about the different ways that we've really been trying to solve search and relevancy as practitioners over the last 10 plus years, is that we're trying to break down those silos, self-service silos, agent silos, documentation being off into a different part of the organization. How are we able to leverage that and ensure that no matter where the customer is, no matter where they're seeking help, whether it be in a traditional self-service environment, going through an agent experience, or even trying to leverage something more future-based, such as an AI-powered chatbot, how are we ensuring that there's consistency, but more importantly, that we're showing that most successful resolution within that workflow? So really, that's where SearchUnify has really spent its time over the last 10 or so years. We have been on the market for about 3 years. And really how we came to market is that we've taken a completely inside-out approach to search. Our parent company is Remediation Interactive. And so we are a global SI that has focused on implementing customer-facing technologies for the last 12 years, really focusing in on support, sales, marketing, but really the support CRM and community implementations has been the biggest focus for our team. And so as a byproduct of 200,000 project hours implementing support CRMs and community platforms, we were able to bring SearchUnify forward to the market. And in terms of the clients that we work with, practitioners that we're helping solve similar challenges, from the Grzidi perspective, we've worked with companies like Google and Marketo. We've been very active in working with those teams to help build their support strategies and really ensure that they're executed over the years. From a SearchUnify perspective, we've been working with clients such as NI, UKG, Alteryx. I really want to give a shout out to all of our clients that are on this webinar today that have set aside some of their time to join us. I really appreciate you doing that and look forward to your feedback after the call. One client that I do want to give a special shout out to, we just heard the news last night that Alteryx was actually awarded Community of the Year by CMX. So it's a huge distinction for them. And, in terms of how they're increasing that customer engagement, but also reducing that customer effort. There's so much that they do that's so great. And then being able to apply search and relevancy and bring, the right content to the right person at the right time has certainly helped play a small role in the distinction that they've just earned. So very, very happy for the outcome that they've had. So moving into, some of the awards and accolades that we've had as well, really quickly on this is, we're always trying to focus on making our partners and our customers the star of these awards. So we've had the good fortune of working with clients like Rubrik to help win several Stevie Awards. We've been recognized by G2 consistently as a leader in enterprise search and also easiest to do business with. And then we've also really focused on building apps on top of search, which is certainly a differentiator that we've been driving over the last few years. And so, organizations like TSIA have also found those solutions to be best in breed. So the validation that we're receiving is certainly exciting, but it goes back to the jobs to be done of our customers and ensuring that at any point in time, it's about really ensuring that we get that time to value reduced and we're removing those frictional barriers. So in terms of how we want to set up the discussion today, we want to go through defining customer issues and really a couple key areas that we've been focusing on in terms of maximizing customer value. We'll do a practical walkthrough of the KCS Solve and Evolve loop. We do have some attendees that, it's one of their first calls, getting a sense of what KCS is and really how to apply that. We're also going to walk through a couple challenges that we've seen with KCS implementations, how you can reimagine that loop with cognitive technology, the role of that technology in reducing that time to value, a couple success stories where we can walk you through how fellow practitioners have actually reduced this time to value, and then a Q&A session. So any questions that come up, again, throughout, just put them into the chat window, and then we'll make sure that they're addressed throughout. Okay, so what we want to walk through first, if you've attended a KCS World Tour session over the last 12 to 16 months, I believe we've seen these slides, and I think it's very important for us to level set in terms of the challenges that we're all really striving to solve. So defining a customer issue. So really, what is a customer issue? Well, it's any issue that is prohibiting or inhibiting your customer from getting their work done in a timely manner. So whether that's installation, usability, new functionality, interoperability, configuration, defects, how-tos, the list goes on. So the opportunity there is that, actually, let's go through the key opportunity first, is that the more time that's spent by that customer to solve that issue and get themselves back on the road to success, the more effort they're spending, the less valuable that becomes. So, there's really an erosion that happens, the longer that customer goes trying to resolve these issues. So we want to prevent that customer erosion. We want to reduce that time to value. So we're ensuring that, these outcomes are creating more loyalty than erosion in loyalty. And then we also want to ensure that we're giving that power back to the customers to do more work on their own, giving those customers a chance to solve more complex challenges on their own without requiring help. And if we overlay that over, what we've seen as support practitioners, we're tending to focus on a couple different areas, right? We tend to focus over here, self-service, community, and agent assist. So as we can see, there's obviously benefits to each. So if we're able to really focus on, tilting the table in the favor of the customer, making sure that any known issue should be solved via self-service, ensuring that the customer has that right sort of outcome, and then ensuring once you get to an agent experience that the agent understands truly what the symptom is, that you can recognize it is truly an unknown issue, and then how do you escalate that to align your people internally to provide a quicker remediation that really aligns to that sort of self-service experience that we see that is lightning fast. So, the opportunities that we've seen throughout is that cognitive search can really, bring the world together, the right sort of context behind, the customer issues, and then turn around that right sort of outcome or get that customer routed to the right conversation so they can be successful. So we've thought about different ways that we wanted to unpack this. And, I've been working from home for the last 10 months. I'm sure a lot of you have either been working from home completely or going back to the office a little bit. I just find myself every couple days or every weekend, there's a Harry Potter marathon on. And we wanted to make this fun and interactive and go through, the use cases of KCS through kind of a Hogwarts perspective. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce you to several support wizards and what their challenges are, really what they're trying to solve. And then, really from a KCS perspective, how they can support their deliverables and how cognitive technology will also kind of help mask that complexity. So we have three wizards. We have Ronald Easley and Severus Snape and Minerva McDonald. So the names have been slightly changed to protect the innocent. And we're going to walk through each of their jobs to be done right now. So Ron is a customer service agent for ABC Software. So he understands that, the primary job that he has is to build that trust and collaboration with his customers and, ensure that every single outcome that he's responsible for, that he can really ensure that it's not just the resolution, but how he made the customer feel in providing that resolution. So he really views the agent interactions that he provides as kind of critical to adding value to the overall customer experience. On the other side, you have Severus Snape. So Snape is actually the customer support leader. So, really the task that he's faced with is transforming the support organization away from the reactive sort of cases that Ron may be working on and transitioning to being more proactive or even preventative. So he understands that his support organization and the engineers are critical for creating the content that other agents will reuse to solve these similar challenges or similar issues, and then how we can position that and enable customers to self-serve and solve the similar issues on their own. And in between them, we have Minerva. And Minerva McDonald is a knowledge domain expert, KDE. So, she is critical to this entire process and initiative, and she's really responsible for the health of the support knowledge from a content point of view. So she's that SME in identifying those duplicate articles, or that all lead to the same resolution, knowledge gaps, and establishing like the optimal approach for resolving complex issues, as well as really helping give back the right sort of insights that will help baseline self-service success. So moving into all of these goals that they have, they've selected that KCS is going to be the right way for them to enable these sorts of outcomes. And obviously understanding that knowledge, again, is the great enabler, and the output of the knowledge base is really, it's incumbent upon not just the solve loop, but the evolve loop to really ensure that we are setting up those future customers for success, creating more effortless experiences, and also creating that binary differentiator between your competition. So when we go into the KCS process and why KCS is the way, we're looking at current state, near state, and not too future state. And in terms of how this is actually being sold within the organization to leadership, is that, look at our current state right now. What are we actually going through? We have some complex cases. I'm sure Ron's actually pretty good for some of those, but we have a high amount of easy cases and how-to informational cases. So obviously we want to go ahead and shift away from those as quickly and as wisely as possible, and move to a near state where we're increasing the complex cases, the preventative cases. Easy cases are going away. Those how-tos are certainly eroding out and being solved by customers. And then in the not too future state, can we really focus on getting past that 50% threshold of new versus known? Can we really focus on those complex cases, and then even the proactive preventative adoption work? And when we look at the benefits, it is really staggering, is that reducing and eliminating those easy incidents for the support agents and focusing on those complex issues, that's going to deliver higher value to the customer, higher value to the organization. And when we really think about enabling customer support agents to solve more complex problems on their own in the same way that we're helping customers do it, if we think about like the art of support, Francois Tournier will say that between 30 to 60% of L1 cases are escalated. So, that is kind of a large percentage, but, for your organization, if you think about how many are being escalated, how could we improve those outcomes for that agent and give them more confidence that, that the fewer cases they're handing off and to escalation, the more they're closing those cases out, the more they've cemented that collaboration with the customer, could be transformative to that overall experience. So moving into the challenges behind this initiative, Ron has a specific set of challenges being an agent. He feels like he's kind of the face of the support experience with every single customer. So, he's fighting against, the agent burnout, kind of being that torchbearer for support, especially at the agent level. And part of that burnout is caused by repetitive cases, the inadequate technology, and limited training and KB creation. And fighting through all of that, he has to really focus on delivering a faster resolution. At the same time, what are Severus's set of challenges? He's focused on establishing that baseline for, for self-service success and positive interactions where agents are not involved. And then when they are involved, motivating support agents, making sure that, resources are utilized, appropriately. And more so than anything, making sure that he has that executive sponsor, that buy-in. If he goes to Dumbledore and he's saying like, hey, I can create a baseline for, for improving self-service success, reducing our cost of operations, but increasing our capacity, then these are the types of data points that, someone like Dumbledore is inclined to listen to. So between them, we have the external drivers that are affecting the adoption of KCS. So, what are others doing out there? Others are, really focusing on delivering that time to value. There's emerging technology that's being taken advantage of within the market. There also is that customer channel preference. So with Gartner saying that by the end of 2020, that 80% of self-service resolutions were going to begin and end with a bot. How close did we get to that? Remains to be seen. but that's certainly the direction that everything is heading. So how can we, mechanize this knowledge, again, to be where the customer is with the knowledge to help them succeed? So when we actually go into the KCS solve evolve loop and how we can actually, start mechanizing this success, we always talk about people, process, and technology. And what we're seeing is that cognitive technology is really providing that Patronus charm, where we can help supercharge these two processes, these two loops. So when we look at the solve loop, just to touch on this really briefly, and we'll go into each individually, there are cognitive applications within each touch point of the solve and evolve loop that will help you reduce that customer time to value or create a more effortless internal experience that can then be delivered back out to your customers. So from a solve loop, if we're looking at capture, structure, reuse, and improve, we're looking at, how to drive ML created auto population of content. So, understanding when the customer is submitting their issue, obviously this is done through your case form. So understanding what the customer's actual symptom is. We're not translating it. It's in the voice of the customer. It could even be incorrect, but it's how the customer is voicing it. Going on to structure, how to auto index the content of your content standard, your KCS defined templates, how you're actually going to take the structure that you've created already and apply that within your knowledge base articles that you're trying to create within the customer experience within that workflow. And then leveraging intelligent search to leverage the collective support, the collective knowledge and intellect, and even similar cases. So there's certainly different signals that can be applied in reuse, and most certainly improve. So, how are we taking that use, flag, fix, add mantra and applying that seamlessly within the workflow? So for the evolve loop, what we'll focus on as well is, focusing on those knowledge gaps for improved self-service success, and even taking a look at how agents are leveraging knowledge and seeing where the disconnects are for them as well. Process integration, seamless integration of tech stacks for, to ensure that your incident management, knowledge management is all functioning seamlessly, so then you can deliver the proper outcomes to your customer. And then the other half would be leveraging the KCS usage analytics and case deflection, self-service success trends. And then obviously the last would be leadership and communication, which is aligning the ROI of cognitive technology to the strategic goals. So we'll go ahead and unpack all of that for you. I know that those were a couple dense slides. And we will go ahead and transition into a day in the life of Ron, Minerva, and Severus. Now, before we do, I've seen that we have had a couple questions come in. So Arnfinn, I just wanted to see if there was anything we could address now before we move on. Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. I saw a couple comments. I just wanted to make sure.
They just love the presentation so far and your energy and passion. So
cool. Sounds good. All right, thanks everyone. All right, so we're going to walk you through a day in the life of Ron, Minerva, and Severus at ABC Software, and really, how they can leverage the KCS Solve Evolve Loop, how they're applying those best practices, and then again, how cognitive technology can help mask some of this complexity within the workflows. So, when we're looking at Ron, we're going to start with the support agent experience, and when we think about the Solve Loop, the way that it's the way that it's marked out, we're actually going to just go through the agent experience. So you will see the applications of the solve loop within this flow. So, the first thing that we're looking at when Ron actually receives a ticket and it comes to him, he's thinking, I wonder if this is an issue that we've seen before. And, you have to remember Ron is like one of the top agents, within this support cohort. So, people are coming to him all the time and asking, hey, Ron, is this something that we've seen before? So, for him, a lot of his intellect is in his brain, but he also has, notepads, behind him. His, thankfully it's a Monday. So on Friday, he actually organized his desk a little bit, but this guy, he's got content all over the place, digital and analog. So when we are looking at whether we've seen this issue before, how are we able to actually, start reusing and linking right away? The concept of search early, search often is certainly paramount here, but because we understand the symptom that the customer is reporting in their own words, from case forms, we often can see what the product name is, what the version number is, so there's definitely a lot of intent and signals behind what the customer is trying to resolve. So, the more that we can leverage that seamlessly for Ron within his case management workflow, the quicker remediation we can provide. And really, when we're going to that agent, that's really the last line of defense for a successful outcome. So we want to try and set him up for success. And so the way that we can do that is that, understanding everything about that case, we can then proactively push, the right information to Ron. So, now he doesn't have to waste the time looking for articles, that he can then reuse. Now, obviously, search early, search often, what if this initial push of information wasn't the best for him? Then he can go into a full search experience, full faceting, and really get to something that is more valuable for him. And there's certainly something to be said for how you can really break down those silos between your knowledge base, documentation, and internal database, wherever that information is living. How can you take intelligent action on that right in the workflow? So let's say that Ron actually finds something that's a KB article, or let's say that it even lives outside of the KB. So there's a few options that he has. He can attach the article to the case. He can obviously send the link as an email or as a comment. What we really focus on as well for some of our practitioners is helping with that concept of a demand-driven migration. So let's say that we have, a 50-page tech doc that, there's a paragraph that actually helps, solve this issue and provide, a quicker and more accurate remediation than what lives in the KB. So, we can ensure that that sort of content is attached to the case, and we can do that seamlessly. So, and when we're doing that, it's not just about using it, but how can we use fix, flag, and add seamlessly within the workflow? So let's say that, Ron comes across this Bluetooth connection issue and he sees that, hey, within this Bluetooth guide, hey, I've actually provided a remediation last week where I actually, I didn't do my best job in terms of adding it to the KB then, but I'm doing it now. There's a piece that I should be able to add. So just even with easy buttons, use, fix, flag, or add, we can certainly, they can certainly help you ensure that the knowledge is being created seamlessly. So so we're preventing that knowledge re-engineering that so many of us are trying to avoid. My apologies for exiting out. Just 1 second there. Okay, so now let's take a look at a few other applications of using knowledge. So it's one thing if you're someone like Ron and you have access to this knowledge, you can basically kind of be like that adjudicator and say, hey, I've been here for a long time. I kind of know where a lot of this content is. And yes, this content's great. Yes, this content, or no, this content isn't. Let's think of someone who's a brand new agent, right? Let's think of Ron's sister, Ginny, okay? And let's say that Ron has really tried to onboard Ginny and has tried to help her, but she's out on her own for the first day. And, the push of knowledge that, that she's getting is the same as what Ron would be receiving based on the context of the case. And while that information is great for her to have, you're a brand new agent, so you're thinking, okay, I could give this knowledge back to the customer, but how do I actually go about building greater trust and collaboration? I mean, it seems like Ron's shooting fish in a barrel when he's talking to people. He puts them at ease. I want to put people at ease. I want to make sure that they know that, they obviously reached out to an agent because they already had some sort of inhibition or prohibition and a disconnect in the self-service experience. So how can we give that new agent the power to behave like Ron? We can actually help them understand what are the top related cases as well, or who are the top agents, top articles. So for related cases, now someone like Ginny can jump in and see, this is exactly how Ron actually solved this case. So we can actually go through and get a greater understanding, not just of the know-how, but how did you build, what feeling did you leave the customer with that would make them want to come back again, or have greater faith that, hey, there's knowledge here. Next time I'm going to do a better job of searching because Ginny helped me out. So whether it's top related cases or even top articles, and the difference here is that it's machine learning based clustering. And we're finding that between 60 to 65% of cases do have some of these commonalities where there are certain articles that are leveraged. So this is a further extension of the initial proactive push. And then you can also look at top agents. So for someone like Ginny, she can say, hey, you know what? I need to go to Ron or I need to go to Harry to try and solve this issue. It's something they've already solved before. That's great. Now let's think about the flip side of this. What's been interesting for some of our clients and really even within this application is, let's think about issues that are coming in that are completely unknown. And how are we actually going to figure out the best way to reduce that customer time to value within the assisted support experience, and try and parallel what they would experience in self-service. Well, so many of us are really focusing on, intelligent swarming, touch and hold, other ways that you would want to call it. How are you actually able to understand who the experts are? So let's say in this application, we have an unknown issue. Ron's not exactly sure how to solve it, but because we understand the product, the version number, the issue or symptom, we have some intelligence around similar parallel issues. Now, that might not be this exact issue because then it would be known to the organization, but we can help identify, hey, these are your top agents. This is your intelligent swarming team. So then, Ron can say, hey, I've got Harry and I've got Ginny. Ginny happens to be, in this case, let's say it's someone else, and then Hermione. So you can basically go to that sort of swarming cohort and understand, hey, I'm reaching out to you because it seems like you've solved similar challenges in the past. This is something that's unknown. Maybe there's something parallel here. So we're not only reducing the customer time to value, but also that agent's time to value to then turn things back around.
And Brian, we have a couple of questions in chat about what CRM software does SearchUnify integrate with? They're loving the story, but wondering if it works for theirs.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So for SearchUnify, I mean, we have native integrations with Salesforce, Zendesk, Microsoft Dynamics, and ServiceNow. We do have some additional clients that are leveraging other third-party CRMs, and from an SI background, this is where we've helped extend the reach of SearchUnify even into those applications. So different third-party communities. We have a full list on our website as well. So for Ruchika, I can certainly reach out to you afterwards, and I can just send you a list, help out, and ensure that you have all the context that you need. And then Abby also asked the question, what apps and software does SearchUnify integrate with? Do you have open APIs to allow customers to build connections into their existing systems? Great question. So yes, so in terms of, so we have over like 10 productized search clients where, let's say you want to build like a SharePoint search experience, you can do that with clicks, not code. So there are different ways we can, from a productized standpoint, that you can be supported. And then from an API perspective, we have open APIs. Search API, Content API, and Analytics API. So wherever you're hoping to either inject search, or if you're trying to pull the search analytics out of SearchUnify and put that into an enterprise BI reporting tool, or even put that back into Salesforce or your CRM, you can certainly do that. Let's see here if there's any additional questions. Does this platform support in the building the profile of the technical and arranges their contribution? Okay. Now, I get what you're saying there. I think I'll just have to probably take that one offline in terms of, so we can aggregate the content in terms of, and we can arrange contributions in terms of, so we aren't a knowledge base. So we just have to make sure that we have like a knowledge base that can, kind of integrate in, so we can ensure that workflow works properly. So Ruchika, that was a great question. And my apologies, I want to make sure I'm answering that fully for you. So I can take that offline for you. And then question from Abby, are SearchUnify fields easily configurable, add, delete, modify, etc.? If you have a taxonomy thesaurus, can you grab that data? Yes, you can. So the fields are easily configurable. We try to do that at really a native level with mapping. So we can certainly help you with, you basically pick the metadata and fields that's important to you, and SearchUnify will take care of the rest. For taxonomy and thesaurus, it's completely open and customizable, and there's really no limit on the thesaurus either. So if you have like a very robust taxonomy, as long as it's in a CSV, it's very easy to add that. Okay, and then there's a question from Mike. If you were starting to build a new knowledge base from the ground up, what do you think is the most important facet to pay attention to early on? Arnfinn, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I think certainly the content standard is critical. And we do have on our site, the KCS Academy site, we have kind of a getting started, but content standard is very critical. So I'd first go through that. And then there's so many tips as far as ensuring that it's in the customer context, to ensure that you have the proper licensing, et cetera. And I think you're actually going to go through some of those tips today. Yeah. But content standard is very key. And Brian brought it up earlier about having that structure. And so you can map the appropriate fields within your CRM to your SearchUnify or other tools. So I think that would be critical.
Yeah, and I think just the one part about it, building a new knowledge base, and it's something we've heard over the years is, what are you bringing into that knowledge base to begin with, right? So what we found is, some clients have said we prefer to try and have like a support focused knowledge base. Well, don't bring all of your knowledge in at once, right? Bring it in based on demand as well. So, I think that's been a concept of even starting with like a knowledge base that's empty, and then based on, when there's been applicability for those cases being resolved by the agent, then you just bring it in. So, Mike, that was a good question. We can certainly try and help you out with a few other ideas there. Okay, let me go ahead and just move on. Brianna, I do see your question. We'll make sure that we get that one answered for you too. Just to finish up what we were talking about, the agent experience, if we may, is that we've gone through understanding, how to intelligently swarm, how to find that expertise, and now, we're trying to provide that remediation. So let's say that we've gone through, and we've really tried to, we've solved the issue, but we want to make sure that we have all the proper context. And, what we found with some of the native solutions out there is this can be kind of, daunting for a support agent, especially when, the queue is always knocking on their door and they have to pick up that next case. So how can we, really help mask some of that complexity? And so, you can actually capture, all of the content, in the moment with clicks, not code with SearchUnify. And so, a few things that I wanted to talk about really quickly, it's the concept of searching is creating, right? So here, it'd be words and phrases the requester is using. I mean, that comes in through the case form. So we're just going to capture that and ensure that it's brought in and leveraged properly within this machine learning based flow. And so basically, however you have your content structure, we can align to that. So in this case, whether it's the environment statements or, the information that distinguishes this article from similar symptoms or the diagnostic process used in resolving this issue, either, you can include it or you can link it to a different article. We want to ensure that all of the solving as a byproduct of this interaction, we want to make sure that that's seamlessly captured. And then, a couple different options that you have once this article, is ready based on your licensing models is that, let's say that this agent is authorized to publish directly. Okay, well, that is an option. And let's say that they hit there's a workflow that goes directly to a KCS coach, right? So it goes into a draft article, KCS coach reviews it, and then they can publish accordingly. So we want to make sure that, that we're picking up on all the breadcrumbs seamlessly so that agent doesn't have to do as much work and can just focus on, hey, this is what the customer is saying, this is the issue that they were trying to resolve, but the environment, all the different metadata that is very, very important. If we can cut some of that out of the workflow, what sort of force multiplier can that deliver to the agent experience, and then ultimately to self-service once all of this content is properly, tailored and then pushed out. So we've gone through the solve loop. So just a time check, it's 8:40 right now, Pacific time. So we'll go ahead and jump into the evolve loop and really why priming your knowledge base health is crucial to KCS success. So obviously, a few of the challenges that we've seen is that there are limited insights on the overall health of the KB in terms of reusability. For legacy content, there could be some questionable strategies or maybe some maybe you could have content sources that are in a certain state of purgatory in terms of, what you want to do with them, whether you want to archive them or still leverage them. There's also a lack of metadata integration just based on certain applications that are leveraged by practitioners out there. And then, something that Arnfinn just hit on, inconsistent article creation standards. So really making sure that, if you have like 4 or 5 different like article formats, aligned to that content standard, you have to be able to reduce that customer time to value, and it has to happen within the agent flow so it can happen. Now, if we're actually looking at the knowledge base health, we're going to look at a few things, right? So obviously, article quality index is very important. AQI isn't really as much of a focus in terms of SearchUnify currently. We are working on a few things there. We're really focusing on understanding self-service success and like new versus known, right? So with SearchUnify, you do have the granular capability to understand, from all of your cases that are created within the agent workflow, how many of these are actually, what is the value in the reuse? Are they being shared via email? Are they being shared via case comment? Are they attached to the case, right? So we want to make sure that we're able to focus and shine the spotlight specifically on how those agents are leveraging knowledge. And then what we can also do is take a look at the content gaps from self-service. So this is really where Minerva comes in and is really going to deliver, a ton of value for the organization. So whether it means searches with no results, searches where there were results but there weren't clicks, right? So it's kind of saying that there's like a disconnect between the voice of the customer and the voice of the enterprise, the voice of ABC software. So like, what is it that Minerva and even Ron within the support experience, what are they missing from the customer that could really help reduce that customer time to value? So a few things that we'll focus on: the content gaps. So we talked about searches with no results, searches with no clicks, but we'll also focus on high conversion results not found on page 1. So if we think about the old Google joke, the best place to bury a dead body is page 2 of Google search results because nobody will look there. Now I know that's probably a little bit morbid, but when it comes to Google, we're always looking for, we try to look for facts, right? But the facts that we can get from Google are basically like, hey, who won the Oscar in 1994 for Best Actor? Like, I think it was Tom Hanks. Or like, but if I ask Google, like, what's the best place to find, Indian food in San Jose, it's going to give me a variety of different answers, right? We want to focus on the facts that your customers and your agents are trying to pull from your content that will lead to that successful remediation and reduce that time to value. So, if you have a customer that's going to like page 5 of search results and clicks on content and actually finds it useful, it'd be great to know that. So we can also highlight that, so then you can actually boost that content. Take a look, hey, from a workflow perspective, is there certain alignment that we need to do back to our content standard? And then also, most importantly, we can take a look right at the event level in terms of case submission. So where did we fail to actually engage that customer with the correct content so they didn't submit their case? So then we can take a look granularly at each case submission, what the customer actually typed in, what their intent was. So then you can actually slice and dice that at an even deeper level. So then you can take those insights and bring it back into your content. So what I wanted to talk about next is we just went through some of the content gaps, understanding like what these journeys are. What we found a lot of value in partnering with our clients, and especially what Minerva is seeing here, is that it's one thing to see content gap analysis, searches with no clicks, sessions with unsuccessful searches, but what does this really look like within a customer journey? And this is something that Minerva would be very happy to leverage, is understanding like the customer journey. So total sessions, out of those sessions, hey, customers aren't going to search sometimes. They're certainly just going to go back and they're going to go back and check on their existing cases. There might not be anything that happens, but what happens when someone searches? Okay, we have search sessions. We're leading to clicks. What happens with the content with clicks? We're leading to exits. With no clicks, they could be leading to exits, or we could be leading to cases. So the more that we can understand what that journey is and how that's been mechanized, the more that we can understand like where those bottlenecks are and try to remove those. So you can report on an overall self-service success level. You can report at the case form level too. So then you can understand, okay, so if we have like a very, very high case submission rate, let's take a look specifically at that form. Let's see what is failing to connect with the customer. So this is certainly where Minerva is going to focus. That way she can understand and help articulate the success of the content and help the organization also understand, hey, how are we baselining deflection? I know deflection is a dirty word, self-service success, or interactions where we've seen content pushed to the customer successfully. Where are we seeing the successful outcomes? So that's all done seamlessly for her in the back admin panel of SearchUnify. So moving on to the challenges of siloed knowledge management systems. So we're talking more about the process integration here. So, you have your incident management systems, KM systems, your self-service knowledge base. So, obviously, it could be the same team, it could be multiple teams, just based on the organization that you work for. And it's really important to ensure, again, like how are we getting that knowledge mechanized so it's delivered to the right person at the right time in the right context? And so the way that we will do this is that, with SearchUnify, there are definitely ways that we can seamlessly integrate with different, integrate and provide knowledge aggregation either within an incident management context, where we can integrate that knowledge management, or even within the self-service integration as well. So, basically what this does is it basically leaves your case management flow as is, but then you can have a cognitive search that helps augment that journey, augment that workflow. So that's all done seamlessly, done natively. And then you can also do that for your communities as well. So from a SearchUnify perspective, we talked about the CRMs that SearchUnify supports. From a community perspective, Salesforce, Kronos, HireLogic, basically any community that you've worked on. We have expertise on the Grizzy side, and this has helped enable the seamless integration to really mask that workflow for self-service practitioners and also for the agent experience. And then lastly, we can go through a couple of our case studies. So just to unpack these really quickly. So, and just to make sure that we're clear, I really sincerely appreciate everybody listening in and hearing us out today and hearing this perspective. We are actually going to be coming back in the summer. We will have at least one of our clients ready to tell their story. Just in January, everybody's kind of trapped in internal meetings. So that's why we weren't able to do that today. We will certainly do that during the summer. So I just wanted to share with you how an industry leader in API-first data platforms actually elevated the quality of their self-service with SearchUnify. So if we think about certain challenges that were had, limited content findability, across the community platforms, internal support teams and employees were faced with that challenge of finding that right solution at the right time for the customer, especially when the clock is running internally. It's inconsistent metadata, like how to really leverage that, ensure that that can improve relevance and findability. And then, traditional content management cycles and kind of the obsolete outcomes that are produced there. So with the solutions of SearchUnify, we're able to index our structured and unstructured content, basically create those unified views within the agent and customer support, customer self-service experience. And also the analytics really help them understand, like, where was the value in the knowledge reuse? Where were the gaps and the disconnects? And then make sure they could prioritize, their time accordingly. So really the outcome that this company has been able to drive is that they've increased the quality and capacity of their support experience and organization, but they really haven't done anything to really have to grow their headcount as a result. And because of that, the impact that they've reported back to us this year is that they are now achieving around $200,000 in savings in support costs per month. And this is based on, really ensuring that no matter where the customer is, knowledge is there to help them succeed. And that could be mechanized, within the agent experience, within self-service, and also within a chatbot. So we have a case study available that's going to be listed in the slides as well. And then one of the clients that we can talk about that we will share with you today is Kronos. And so Kronos is part of Ultimate Kronos Group. So they've merged with Ultimate Software. Kronos went through a journey. I'm sure some folks on the call have currently worked for, have worked for, or know of Kronos. And Kronos has been on this journey with KCS basically the entire time that I've kind of been in this space, and used to leverage some very large, robust on-premises software, and decided to make a migration over to some certain cloud technologies, and found that some of the native native shortcomings or challenges were around how data categories were leveraged within the search experience. And this led to some irrelevant suggestions on their case creation page. So they saw spikes in known issues coming into the contact center. It was really tough for their super MVPs and users to really find information that they had found on the previous community, so much to the point where they were asked point blank multiple times by MVPs, where did your knowledge base go? So, getting that sort of feedback from a very experienced, MVP level user, they took it seriously. They really understood that, this lack of, facets and leveraging, metadata really reduced the positive outcomes that they were hoping to drive with this entire transformation. And so, in partnering with Kronos, they actually implemented, cognitive search, where they're able to really unify all of that content, whether it be, the customer facing content, agent experience content, or even out to their partners as well, ensuring that, those complex security permissions are respected. We're able to also integrate the case management, the case form. So pushing the right information to that customer, ensuring that there's greater self-service success there. And then most importantly, ensuring that they're able to baseline the demand for content, the demand for service, and how to differentiate the two and create those fast lanes for each. So the quote that we have for Leo Daly, he's the director of the Ultimate Kronos Group community. He said, SearchUnify provided responsive project management, high technical acumen, and timely communication throughout our deployment. And so, Kronos has been recognized by Fever as one of the top Salesforce communities, and certainly a pleasure to have worked with them. So those are the stories that we wanted to unpack today. So we're going to leave you with 5 different bullet points in summary. So want to focus on integrating your enterprise teams with those KM processes for sustained success. You can invest in technology. If you really do that, it can enable you to succeed at your KCS implementation, but it has to be banked on improving the content findability and redefining the way that you can measure your agent's contribution to the KB. And if we're able to do all this and embrace that needed leadership, that's really, really crucial for these sorts of initiatives. That is where we're seeing success, and we hope to see more in the future for our clients as well. So with that being said, Arnfinn, we are at our Q&A. It is now 8:52 a.m. Pacific time.
All right. Well, thank you. This was great. We're going to go ahead and unmute everybody. Please put your questions in chat, but if we do have any clarification, feel free to come off mute. And there's a lot of questions at the end on, does it work with Zendesk, team support, etc. How large of an organization can you support? There's questions around the specifics of SearchUnify, of the flag and fix, how and create, how you integrate in, since you're not a knowledge base, how you do that. So those were, if you want to answer it at a high level, and probably point them to resources. You can put those in your site, in the chat to your site, or however you want to handle that, Brian. But a lot of very detailed questions on how to implement in their environment. And so if you want to jump on that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for all the questions, guys. I really appreciate it. I think the first question was about, what size support teams can we support, and really what does the scale look like? And transparency there. I mean, we have certain support teams that have 30 to 40 agents that are leveraging SearchUnify, and then we have very, very large conglomerates that are leveraging SearchUnify. We're talking 250 different products, 4,400 different versions. So a lot of complexity. The good thing is, in terms of how we've kind of focused on this, is we're not user-based pricing, so we try to keep things relatively flat, and everything's configurable in terms of clicks, not code. When it comes to the PS part, we try to help there. And certainly take that offline, but more so than anything, like the strength that we have in SearchUnify is that time to value, and also making sure from a clicks not code perspective, like you can scale. So as I was saying, I mean, it doesn't matter what size. I would probably say 30 agents at least would probably be like a safe bet. But any questions that are there, I mean, we're all practitioners here. So if we have a conversation and it comes to find out, like, hey, you know what, this use case is certainly overkill, like I'll point you in a different direction to a different KCS practicing company. Now, in terms of, let me go ahead and just blow this up a little bit so I can see everything. Oh, so how are we integrating with the KB to publish the article through the current KB? That's a great question. So we have a native connection and integration with the different CRM. So for example, Salesforce. So basically, because there is a native integration, any sort of content that's created with SearchUnify would basically would be sent back to Salesforce. So basically, SearchUnify can help aggregate the content and take that case information and bring everything nice in a good bundle. But what we really want to focus on is still leveraging your core KB for your for your different workflows and processes. Okay, my chat window just went away. Just bear with me.
Oh, and there's a question. Do you integrate in BMC? Is there a portion on your site where you talk about all where you have native integration as well?
Yeah, exactly. We do. So we'll make sure, Ajay or Karam, if you guys could maybe just put in our documentation link, just so we could show what content sources we have, and then also what we're able to connect to create search experiences seamlessly. The way to think about that is we have over 35 out-of-box connectors that are all clicks not code, and then we also have different capabilities to support those third-party CRMs. So for BMC, I saw that there was a question on that. We do not have a connector specifically for BMC right now, but I have worked with several clients where they've had a CRM that was not Salesforce, ServiceNow, Dynamics, or Zendesk, and we were able to support that workflow and use case. So any questions on BMC, I can certainly take those offline and help answer that question fully.
And why don't we do this also when we send out the recording, everybody, let's work with you. And if you want to have key resource links, we can send that out with the recording to help people out.
Yeah, that sounds good. And any questions that you have, I mean, you can refer to our website, SearchUnify.com. You can reach out directly to me. I mean, I'm one of the folks who's always online here in the U.S. We have a dedicated team in India as well. So any questions that you have, if I'm asked a question at 3 p.m. Pacific time, the good news is that my team comes online, in the evening, and I'll have an answer for you within 24 hours if I can't answer it directly.
And Dan Miller from Geotab made a nice shout out as far as they're doing a proof of concept with you, and found that not only were you doing some of the what they were expecting, but finding that you do much more, that you have quite a bit of functionality. So his advice would be to look at the total functionality provided by SearchUnify and any vendor.
Sounds good. Daniel, thank you so much for the message. Hope everything's going well, and I appreciate you dropping a line.
Okay. Well, I think you hit all of the questions. And again, there'll be specifics. We'll get you the links there. And so thank you very much for the presentation, Brian. And thank you all for participating.